Welcome to the Yoga Life podcast. Hello and welcome. My name's Kevin. This is episode 109. This is my new intro. I'm giving it a go. I'm going to change the first bit to have maybe a more sophisticated voice on than you just heard. This is episode 109. This episode is brought to you by Yoga with Me. I have an online platform, if you didn't know, where you can practice yoga in the comfort of your own home for just €19 a month. What do you get? Well, you get 60-minute classes. I've got about 35 up right now, and audio meditations ranging from 5 minutes to 15 minutes. Got about 10 at the moment, more coming up. Most important thing is, every single week, new content is added. If you want to avail of this offer and you'd like to enjoy yoga with me, then you can go to my website, kevinboyyoga.ie, and you actually get a free week's trial. If you don't like it, try it for a week. You ain't lost a penny. Today, I have with me, that's enough selling stuff, I have with me Dr. Dara Stewart. Dara is an academic, but he's also a spiritual seeker. Dara has a Ph.D. in plant medicine, and he has a honours degree in natural science. So me and Dara plan to talk about Western medicine versus Eastern medicine. Is there a place for both? And what actually happens in men's circles, which Dara leads. He currently does them in the Netherlands because it's not legal to do it here in Ireland. And there's much to learn about Dara and these magic mushrooms. So without further ado, here is Dara. Now, Dara, I sit in front of you with an open mind. I would say I'm a seeker. No, I don't have... I haven't made up my mind about psychedelic experiences or plant medicine. Mm-hmm. And I feel that I've done other things. Yeah. Okay. But I've never experienced what you would call it natural medicine, as it were. Mm-hmm. And I think that before I hit record, I was just talking to you about the importance of podcasting to discuss ideas and to have these podcasts are completely unedited. Yeah. And I'm at the moment on the fence, so I could be swayed either way. Yeah. I really don't know. And sometimes I might play devil's advocate because I think it's good in order, therefore, to get a balanced view. Yeah, absolutely. View. Yeah. So firstly, Dara, if you were at a dinner party, because you're an academic, I've done some research about you. You went to Trinity, you got a PhD, and I'm sure you find yourself in situations where you're with other academics. Mm-hmm. If they're not in your circle, and they say, "So, what do you do for a living?" Yeah, what would you say?
Well, I think what would I say? I'm in the business of opening up minds and also receiving people with that, you know. So at the moment, I'm focusing on two things in my life. I run the 5-day psychedelic retreats in the Netherlands, and the focal point of this retreat is to high doses of psilocybin, which is a compound in magic mushrooms or magic truffles, which we use in the Netherlands because they're legal. And the retreat is also coupled with pre and post psychotherapy and integration work.
Right.
And my second passion at the moment in life, and what's been really driving me forward in this pandemic time, is working with men. So I run men's circles, men's events, men's workshops, and I also support and guide men through challenges they're having in their life, periods of uncertainty, and around psychedelic integration and phases of big growth and change. So that's kind of like the two areas that I've been kind of drawn into in the last few years. But my background is in science. I'm trained scientist. I had a career for, I'd say, 10 years in science. I did my undergraduate, my Ph.D, and then I went into full-time research.
What's your PhD in?
My PhD is in plant genetics, so I'm a molecular biologist, and then I focus in on plant genetics, because I had this affinity with nature, and I felt rather than working with mice or flies, and I preferred the green touch, So I think a lot of my job was dealing with plants and growing them and taking care of them, and then also getting to do really amazing cutting edge science on them.
When you say that to people, or when you tell them what you do, what is a typical reaction or question?
Or question. It's all, the question's always like, how did you get into that? You don't
read that when you're in school.
No, not at all.
This is not on the syllabus.
Yeah.
How did you get into that? I mean, I suppose when we're in school, we're told that there are certain occupations you can do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some occupations that exist now weren't even around 20 years ago.
No, not
like
at all.
People
all the IT and
people are professional podcasters sometimes. I'm not, but some are. And who would have thought that would be a job? Or say an Instagram influencer. I mean, these are all. So it is very interesting. I think there must be a part of people that really admire someone who does something completely different and something that is not a typical route in life. No pun. There's a pun. Yes. When you have people that come to you or that you meet that eventually join one of your experiences, what are the main questions they have for you?
For me, the questions are generally around how the space is held. What are the sort of logistics? A lot of questions around when they actually take psilocybin. Is it in a group context? Are they by themselves? Like, what's the process? How long is it? These kind of these are kind of the main questions, like around the logistics of the actual experience. And of course, you get all the other questions about like how much time do I need off after and
off work,
off work, and these sorts of questions. But generally, people want to know how does it actually unfold, because not a lot of people know how we actually run it and how it is done, because a lot of the early psychedelic work was done in the 60s by some amazing people, and that was all shut down, because of the war on drugs and Nixon, and they really clamped down on a lot of the psychedelic substances in the 60s due to a reaction to the Vietnam War and the hippie movement and counterculture. So a lot of the early work was done then, but then that was completely stopped, and it's only in the last 5 years really that there's this like renaissance or re-emergence now in psychedelic science and using psychedelics for healing as well. So people are kind of just really curious because it's not known. Like, do you take it? What do you do? Do you go outside? Do you lie down by yourself? Do you do it in a group? Are you awake? Or, do you have a blindfold on? Do you not? So people have all these questions. But on the retreat, we get people to lie down on their own mat on a space, and they wear a blindfold, and it's all an inward journey. So everybody's in the same room together, 4 facilitators. We have max 12 journeyers on the retreat, our clients, and they ingest the truffles, and then they go on this 6-hour journey to music. So we have this specially curated playlist, and that's based on the research from Imperial College London and Johns Hopkins University in the United States. And the music really evokes like these emotional sort of turbulence inside you, which comes up, and then you process. And people have, attachments to different music. The violin is always known as sad, and it can remind you of a sad time in your life. So this will bring up sadness for you. And then because the psychedelics are like non-specific amplifiers of whatever's going on inside you, they really really feel it. So you have this felt experience, and then you can work through that with the tools that we give you before the journey. So it's really about bringing up unresolved emotions, trauma, and then kind of working through it with the tools and the skills that we've given you to work with before the retreat and on the retreat.
You mentioned about men's circles.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you was to say to me, Kev, chance to meet other men, get to know yourself, whatever, I would say start a football team.
Yeah.
do martial arts.
Yeah.
Why is that? What's the difference between that? Now we're speaking generally.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some football teams are really in touch with their emotions. I don't know. But what's the difference between that, men getting together that way, or getting together in a way that you facilitate?
So for me, it's a held container. So people are coming with the understanding that they're not going to be judged in that space for how they express themselves. And when they drop into a space of vulnerability, they know that they're being listened to and heard to. So if you're with a bunch of lads at a football match or martial arts, you know, somebody could throw stuff at you. They could project on you. They could belittle you. They could say something negative to you. And not having that container can be really damaging if someone's in a process of sharing from a very vulnerable space. So the space that we create is also confidential. So you can come, you can say whatever you want, and there's a confidentiality agreement that none of the brothers will share about what you're going through or your process, unless they ask you, hey, I found that really interesting, I'd love to share that with my wife because we're going through something similar. So it's about having this container or space that's non-judgmental, confidential, and is full of other brothers who are actively listening to you and not butting in. So, you know, everyone gets their time to speak. They can speak for as long as they want within reason. And it's also a space to be heard and witnessed. So we don't get that often in our lives to be fully listened to. Sometimes people cut in on you or will say, oh, that happened to me as well, and then they'll draw the attention back to themselves. So really getting this space to air out everything you want, and the power of, you know, speaking your truth and being witnessed is what I think a lot of people are looking for nowadays.
You mentioned the word container. When you're playing football,
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain dialogue you have. There's certain words you use. And it's almost like if this person says the same word that I'm used to using, I feel more akin to them.
Mm.
And underneath it, we are looking for connection as men, as humans. And football gives us a medium to do that, or whatever it is, martial arts, where we feel like you're like me, therefore I can trust you. But the downside of that is, I find, in my experience, I've only recently started going back to playing football. And when I was young, I was terrible at football. I was always on the bench, never picked, whatever. And I noticed this narrative come up in my head where every time I make a mistake, I'd berate myself, sometimes even out loud. I'd go, fuck it, or whatever.
Inner critic.
Yeah, inner critic. And then one of the guys on the team, who's actually a really lovely guy, started doing it to me then. He started saying, for God's sake, do this, do that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I can't wait for this to be over. And what I realised was I went back to what I was like as a kid.
Yeah.
Whereas in a yoga room, I feel comfortable because I have done it a lot and I'm competent to a degree. But in this football environment, I felt like a school kid again.
Yeah.
And I went home. I had to really, really talk to myself on the way home and be like, I had a bad game. These things happen. Let's carry on with it. But it did. It was really affecting me for that hour. What I find, being completely honest with you, quite uncomfortable about men's circles is I don't want to be. I don't know. I'm not used to being that vulnerable with other men.
Yeah.
For me, that's my vulnerability is shared with my girlfriend, Rach, now fiance. Sorry.
Yeah. Congratulations.
That's a promotion. I always feel
with a baby on the way.
With a baby on the way, is that good? But I always feel a bit pretentious saying fiance. Why do I do the French word? But yeah. So with Rach, she's the person I give my love to. I can be vulnerable with, and I just keep it with her and no one else. So I am projecting a little bit here, but is that a common trend? Do other men say that to you?
Yeah, and I think it's different. What I love about the circles is you have men from all different backgrounds. We have people who are hardcore meditators, really into yoga, really into plant medicine, psychedelics, and you know, a lot of people who have been on a personal development path or a path of like spiritual awakening, or, you know, deep seeking, or self-inquiry. And all of these men, we, you know, come together, and each of us have a different syntax and language that we use, you know, based on our previous life experience and, you know, whatever our path is. So you'll have all the terminology of yoga. So if you start talking about, you know, in this asana the other day, and one of the other brothers might have a clue what you're talking about because he just doesn't know. But there is definitely a meeting where people will get into this sort of sharing of their authentic self, which everybody can resonate with, because I feel that, you know, we're all human beings, we all suffer, we all have the same similar challenges, especially, you know, men in Ireland, we all hold a lot of similar traumas growing up. You mentioned, you know, the schoolboy stuff at football and in school, and, you know, bullying and whatever. But there's always this point where, and I love this on each circle, that people always say, what everybody said here tonight in the circle, I resonated with at least one point from each of the other brothers. So there's always this like understanding of people's journey and process, and seeing how people navigate like challenges and grow from them. So the men that come on the circles are there to grow, pretty much. You know, they're there to grow, support. You know, I love that we always share, you know, podcasts and books. So it's also a really amazing information resource. You know, I learn so many new avenues to check, or books, or like authors, or podcasts, or movies. So there's always this great sharing of, you know, I read this last week, or I watched this last week, and then, you know, some people take notes. I always take notes. You know, and there's following up. And then I think around the vulnerability, yeah, it's one of the biggest passions for me as a man, because I felt that, you know, men have this really big block to being just vulnerable, you know, being open, saying like, these are my struggles, this is what's going on with me. And I think there's a load of reasons for that, you know, pride. I think there's this, you know, sort of stuff where we're told as children, like, big boys don't cry, man up, don't share your feelings. All this sort of stuff is kind of like almost like conditioned into us as men as we grow up. So then we hold all this back. And I feel that in being vulnerable and being seen and being open, there is huge power for transformation of whatever is going on for you. Emotions, you know, emotions just want to be felt. They want to be recognized. So some people don't have partners, unfortunately, or, you know, beautiful fiancés to share with. So the only place they get to be vulnerable is in the circle with other men. And it's been really beautiful to see so many men come in. You know, each week there's like 3 or 4 new people every week, and they always say, oh, it's my first circle, I'm so nervous. And then, you know, I get to see this journey of them if they continually come, where they can't really express how they're feeling in the first one. Maybe they listen to other people and pick up the language or how to feel into themselves. And then 2 or 3 or 4 circles later, they're really sharing, oh, this is my process, this is going on for me. You know, they have more of a language how to express themselves. So I think a lot of men don't feel as well. You know, we use alcohol to numb. And you know about this in yoga, trying to get like men into their bodies is like super difficult, because we're so cut off. We're a lot in the head. It's the sort of masculine sort of shadow we have, you know, is like being too in the head as men and not enough in the body. So, you know, I try every circle to, you know, do a meditation, get people into their body, see what they're feeling, see what's coming up. Is there any points that their body is crying out what needs attention? You know, I'm a firm believer of emotions and trauma being held in the body. So I think it's lovely to see this process of men slowly start to change over the circles, about the language they use, being able to feel into their body more, having more of an idea of what's actually going on, you know, because, you know, some men just come to the circle, I'm angry, and that's all they feel is just anger. They can't feel anything else. Like, you know, they can't, well, is it grief? Is it a sadness? Is it a sense of like loss? You know, you're trying to pick it apart a bit, you know, so it's trying to give men also the tools to be able to feel into the body, process emotions, and be able to move through them.
It seems like women do that more comfortably than men. I believe I came across your work through Jenny Keane, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Rach has been to Jenny's workshops, and obviously for confidentiality reasons, I won't say what goes on. But part of it is, how do you actually feel?
Mm.
The common response is, I mean, in London we go, this is how people greet each other in London. You all right? All right. That's it. Yeah. So it's a question and a statement at the same time. One word, 2 syllables, done.
Yeah.
Or you might say, yeah, not too bad yourself. Yeah, I'm all right. That's it, done. In Ireland, it's pretty much the same. And
great, that's it.
Yeah, great. Yeah, exactly. Because I was talking about this to, I had Sunday lunch around my mum's house. So mum was there, sister was there, Rach was there. And we're talking about work, the work environment, so being in an office. And now, because, by the way, to give a timestamp on this, we're coming to phase 3 of the COVID, which means that things are opening up next week, or this week. This is out next week. But in the last few months, we've been at home, and we haven't had office politics or people around us. And we were just kind of taking the piss really about how in an office you go through the same thing. Monday morning it's Monday again, Wednesday hump day, Thursday almost Friday happy Friday, weekend now. Monday comes, any plans? What did you do on the weekend? It's the same thing over and over again. Now, I'm not dissing people that do that. I was that person because I didn't know how to go any deeper, and also it's not the right environment for it. If someone says to you on a Monday morning in work, how are you feeling? Well, I'm scared of dying alone. Yourself? Or why bother being alive? What's it all about? They're just going to be like, you're a freak. I can't handle this right now. I'm going to a meeting. So so we just find ourselves in a cycle of saying I'm grand or whatever, instead of how we really feel. But what does, and I do want to tie in movement to this, because I believe that the work environment when you're sitting in front of a computer looking at a screen is to a degree unavoidable. Because that's the way society is going, it seems. But I definitely need movement. I actually need more than that. I need like physical altercations, and that's why I like martial arts and football, to kind of have essentially a competition. What I'm curious about in your men's circles is, how does that manifest itself? Movement therapy. What does that involve?
So, well, in the circles, they're, mostly we sit in circle for them. But I've started to do workshops now where we incorporate movement into, the sort of format. So we'd have an opening circle, people would share, and then we get into release work, which is, getting into the body, releasing in whichever way you feel your body needs to move. So this could be yoga poses, this could be shaking, it could be, flailing your arms around. And I definitely think that, stuff does get trapped in the body. And one of the biggest problems, I think, in modern society is that we're not releasing enough. And I think people really know that now in times of coronavirus. Like, they really realize that, whoa, going out on a Friday night and having a dance that's my release, or, having a football match. There's been no football matches. That is a release. You're going out, you're getting your aggression out, you're getting your adrenaline up, you're getting everything pumping, you're getting everything moving. So at some of the workshops that I've started to run, we do specific exercises around releasing. So there's, screaming, shouting, howling, releasing this pent up energy. There's, dancing either very slow to get in touch with the kind of watery, softer movements, like really bring a lot of presence into the body and see where you have your blocks, or where you're not flexible, or, you're quite static. And then there'd be more like, lots of drumming and lots of like really, really releasing out of the body and getting in touch with a more like kind of ancestral tribal side of the body.
Is there any physical, any like partner work?
We've done a little bit of partner work. We do some like martial arts movements. We do some, at the very basic kind of partner yoga stretches. We might do some acro yoga, and this sort of thing, you know, about balance and stability and
push hands, like Tai Chi push hands.
Yeah, this sort of stuff, and like, you know, shoulder to shoulder, like pushing each other out, and some.
It's funny though what that brings up when you start introducing an element of competition, even though you may not intend that to happen, but the person interprets it as a competition. All right, if we're pushing each other, how much can I give and take, as opposed to I need to dominate straight away. Do you find that ever steps over the mark, or people like it gets kind of done in not in what's the word I'm looking for? Because I found that difficult. Like I did this, shout out to Jody Kennedy, by the way.
Great guy,
Yeah, great guy. So I did one of his, you could say like a half day retreat. And part of it, I mean, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so obviously he uses a lot of movement and partner stuff. But I found myself doing the push hands, and I started getting, I couldn't, I was trying to play nice, Dara. I was. I was trying to play.
The competitive streak in you.
Competitive streak came out, and I was like, "No, this person's dominating me. I can't let this happen."
Yeah.
And but then, actually, maybe I needed that, because it played on my mind. And after, I was like, "Why couldn't I take? Why did I always have to be pushing?"
Yeah.
So does that? Do you find that that's ever happens in?
I think what I've seen is, you know, some guys have more of a body awareness, I'd say, you know, through whatever practice that they're involved with. It could be yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, or martial arts. So they'd be more body aware of what their actual power is, you know. They will have like reached their edge several times. So they'll know like, this is my edge, and any more than that and I could break the guy's arm. Where you might have other men who aren't so sure of their inherent body power, or also coordination, you know. If you're a guy who comes from no sport background, you know, maybe you're a chess champion and you weren't really into sports, you know, you might, you know, not have full body awareness. So you might like push, and you might push a guy over, but I think in the circles, everyone knows no one's there to hurt each other. No one's there to be overly competitive, but competitiveness does come up, you know, and that's good, because that's something that men need to work with. You know, why am I overly competitive? Why do I hate losing? Why do I hate failing? Why do I hate being the worst? You know, like somebody always has to be last if there's something. And I think in learning to deal with that is also a huge journey for people, you know, especially if you were like at the top of your game in university, and maybe you let yourself go a bit, and now you're in a work environment where you're used to winning all the time. So when you go into business deals or whatever, and you're not winning, or you're getting told, you know, that's not good enough, you know, that's a hard one to swallow. And I see that with people, you know. It's, you know, people used to getting their own way a lot because of their physical stature in sports. And then when that translates into maybe yoga, you can probably speak on that, and they can't do yoga poses. I'm sure it's really frustrating for those guys or women, you know.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I think that we are, and this is no secret, we're becoming more teaching kids that everyone's a winner, and that it's like when I was growing up, it's like you got to push hard, and even if it hurts, kind of get through it, and then it'd be worth it at the end. But I'm interested to see now what the next generation of men are going to be like, next generation of people are going to be like. Are they going to be a lot more compassionate, or are they going to be a generation that have grown up on social media and are not good with each other socially, and are just used to living in their own echo chamber, where everything they think is reinforced because the algorithm is telling them that what they think is right. And therefore they end up in an environment that you're facilitating, like a retreat, and maybe they're asked to challenge their thoughts or their own
belief system.
Yeah, exactly. How they would deal with that. And actually, on the kind of reinforcement theory, when you're interested in the subject, as I said, the internet will give you more of that. And it will reinforce, tell you that you're right, and therefore everyone else must be wrong. What I'm curious about, and I don't have an opinion on this, that's why I'm asking you, is you've got Western medicine, and for want of a better description, Eastern medicine. Is there any value in Western medicine?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think Yeah, this is one of my absolute passions, you know. Like, I'm a trained scientist, but I'm also like super interested in spirituality and like Eastern medicine and Eastern philosophy as well. And, you know, obviously growing up with all the Western ideologies and philosophies. So I feel that two of them should be blended, you know. There's definitely value in both. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to find the middle, you know. I'm trying to bridge science, spirituality, and at the retreats we blend the Western medical model with the holistic Eastern model. So we have this sort of blending of both, you know, and both have their positives and both have their negatives. Now, with in relation to Western medicine, I think we've overly relied on parts of the Western the medical system, you know, like antidepressants, you know, something wrong with you, just pop a pill, you know, this sort of philosophy, which isn't working, you know, or you know, just getting on with it or dealing with it, and there's no sort of really, I think there's no real stopping. That's what I'm trying to get at. There's no real stopping in the Western model. Like, you take a pill, you get back to work. Where I think in the Eastern model is like, slow down, meditate, get into your body, get out in nature. But also in the Eastern, it can be a little bit wishy-washy sometimes. You know, it might be, you know, take this herb, where we actually have a better alternative with the Western system. You know, because it's been like proven through rigorous scientific process, you know, low side effects. You know, I'm a firm believer in, you know, peer-reviewed science. But I think when we blend both of them, you know, you can maybe use, say, antidepressants for a while, but ideally you don't want to have a dependency on those for the rest of your life. Maybe you start to use them for a time of heavy crisis, and then slowly move into more like grounded approaches like meditation, yoga, maybe start moving onto natural medicines, natural supplements and plant medicines. But yeah, so there's definitely two sides of the coin, and both have their positives and negatives.
Because I know people that are, I mean, Jordan Peterson, I try not to get too personal on these podcasts, and bring in people that I know, but Jordan Peterson talks about the benefit of antidepressants, as in, you know, from the Western medicine, and how sometimes people say, well, it's natural, saying as if something's natural, it's good for you, but you know, nature can kill you as well.
Uranium is natural.
So, and this brings up like a kind of a delicate topic, because mental health is so complex.
Yeah.
And I asked people who had any questions, and someone who brought up a question, which is a really important point, was how can we tell people, I'm not saying we, but how do you advise people? Do you say to them, like, stop taking your, is it SSRIs?
SSRIs, yes.
SSRIs?
Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
Okay, yeah. That one. So, because with vulnerability, there is obviously a responsibility on your side.
Of course,
and you're a well-educated man.
Yeah.
And when people are coming to you that are in a vulnerable state, they're struggling with their mental health.
Yeah.
Do you, now I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Do you say, you don't need those drugs, take this instead, and you'll be fine? Or how do you navigate that?
Yeah, and that's a really, really great question. So this is where we really blend both of the models, the Western medical model, and then the sort of the Eastern holistic model, or not only Eastern. So before you come and retreat, you have your consultation call, and we kind of explore where you're at, you know, what your story is, maybe what pills you're on, or antidepressants you're on, or, you know, blood pressure tablets, everything. We try and get like a full kind of background, and then you submit an application form with everything in detail. And the next phase is you have a session with a trained psychotherapist. Okay. He and this is a really great thing about a retreat. So you get 3 psychotherapy sessions. You get one before you go on the retreat to really see where you're at, what you're on, really probe you a bit more, and the psychotherapist will all get an indication if you're suicidal, if you're bipolar, if you're schizophrenic, if you have a family history of schizophrenia or any of those. We can't take you, so we don't take people who have been clinically diagnosed, because the research is just too thin on whether psilocybin will negatively affect those people and cause psychosis. And with certain antidepressants and SSRIs, they're known to be contraindicated with psilocybin. So, if you take psilocybin while you're on SSRIs, it can enhance the psilocybin and can potentially cause psychosis or serotonin syndrome, where too much serotonin gets used up and then you go into clinical depression. So the psychotherapy session and the application form will really get an idea of where you're at, and based on that, then we will make suggestions on the published data. So for SSRIs, there's a tapering phase. So we ask clients to taper off them over a period of 6 to 8 weeks. Some SSRIs are different than others, and they require a longer period, or a completely clean period where you don't have any in the system, and that can take a while. So based on the research, we ask people to taper off them and not be on them for the retreat due to any contraindications with psilocybin. And then, after the sessions at the retreat, you get a psychotherapy session. So this is done after your journeys. And then...
Is that in person?
Yeah, that's in person at the retreat, yeah. And then the session after the retreat with our team psychotherapist is online as well over Zoom. So you get 3 sessions, and then you also have integration sessions where we have group calls before, so everybody gets to meet each other, and there's group calls after, so everybody can check back in and we can see how you're doing, and there's great follow-up and sharing of our journeys after the retreat. So this is kind of the advice, with SSRIs, and some of them are really nasty. They can leave really bad side effects for people. You can get brain zaps. You can have really...
What's a brain zap?
Almost like an electrical impulse in the head, almost like a headache or a flash migraine. So some of the SSRIs are really hard to get off. Some of them are known. There's huge court cases in the States now for people who literally can't get off some of the medication because they're so dependent on it that if they come off them, they'll just go straight into clinical depression. And there's no real recovery plan out there for some of these antidepressants. So it's a really serious business, and that's why we take all the precautions on a retreat with the psychotherapist and with the application form, and we really try and get a full profile of each person that comes.
I wasn't aware about the psychotherapist. Do you have any pushback by people saying that's not enough, you need more of a vetting process?
I think the vetting process we have is one of the most thorough in the industry. So there's only, I'd say 5 retreats doing psilocybin legally in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Most of them are situated in the Netherlands, Inward Bound, my one.
Yeah.
Jamaica also has loose laws around magic mushrooms and truffles, so there's actually some there, and I think there's maybe 1 or 2 popping up in the States now due to decriminalization of nature. That's what the campaigns are: decriminalize nature. So the Netherlands, it's ultimately we don't want to be working in the Netherlands. We want to be working here in Ireland. But due to the legality, we can't. Psilocybin is a Schedule 1 or A substance. It's totally illegal. It's deemed no medicinal value. So, and Ireland was one of the latest countries to actually ban magic mushrooms and psilocybin. We only banned it within the last 10 years when we closed all the head shops. And this was kind of like a knee-jerk reaction to some high-profile case 10 years ago. And then, I think the head shops were also, selling some harmful substances as well. But there was natural ones in there as well, like Salvia divinorum and some other herbs like mugwort and these normal herbs which have slight psychoactive properties.
What was the high profile case?
There was a man who jumped off a building, and the toxicology report said he had magic mushrooms in his system, but also like the equivalent of 2 liters of vodka. So which one was it? You know, was it the magic mushrooms, or was it the vodka? You know, so it's, and like alcohol's still legal in the country, you know, and you know, it's the same with psilocybin. Like you can't drive while you're on it. You know, you can't do certain things, and similar with alcohol, you know. But like in this country, we have such a huge alcohol lobby. Alcohol's never going to get banned ever, you know. But mushrooms being, you know, natural, easily obtainable from the ground, you know, never been really monetized. They were just kind of banned in this blanket psychoactive ban with all psychoactive substances. It was kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. It's like, none of this has been tested. We're just going to ban everything and say there's no medicinal value. And it's the same with marijuana, you know. Marijuana's been like literally shown to have medicinal value and it's still banned in this country. And a lot of countries now are starting to open up and use it for, you know, glaucoma, Parkinson's, epilepsy, chronic pain, depression, anxiety. And it's similar with magic mushrooms. They're psilocybin, with the compound which is in magic mushrooms, has been shown to reduce depression, anxiety, end of life anxiety, which is a big one. You know, they're giving high doses of psilocybin to people when they're coming near to death, and this is helping them to really deal with the grieving process and the thought of dying, because most people don't think about that.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. And you know, and then you also have, you know, psilocybin is working really amazingly with people with these mental health problems, but then it also catapults your personal development, which is an area I'm so fascinated in, you know, helping you get your purpose, give yourself clarity, and it really boosts your creativity, you know. So we know, like in the 60s, when people were taking lots of mushrooms and lots of LSD, there was this massive explosion of like creative artists, colors, clothes, styles, all this kind of, you know, the stereotypical hippie movement, you know. But this was like an opening up of creativity. And there's been really great research done recently that shows that if you take psilocybin, it really helps you think more divergently, so like in a different way to how you would normally proceed. So there's kind of like this opening up of seeing things outside the box and seeing other routes to get to the solving of a problem. So it's an amazing substance.
Yeah, it's so easy to, I think, I mean, full disclosure, I mean, I've partied a fair bit of my time, and I have had times when I've been stimulated and I'm in a certain, like a festival or something, and I think, wouldn't it be great if life was like this all the time?
Yeah.
If you
like Limitless or something.
You just have open conversations and you are full of love, essentially. I mean, the downside of doing certain, you know, I don't even like using the word drugs.
Yeah.
It's like when I say an aspirin or a magic mushroom, or saying they're both drugs doesn't do it justice. Drugs has a kind of dirty word, dirty
negative connotation.
Negative connotation, thank you, attached to it. But in my experience, obviously the downsides to certain drugs can be really bad, but at the time, it does. For me, it opened up a little crack through a way of living that I thought, oh, life can always be like this.
Yeah.
You can always have these conversations with people. It's just we need, and alcohol is there all the time. But I've had great times with alcohol, but I generally don't drink now.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah,
I realise there's better things out there. But
sorry, go on, Darragh.
Yeah, I was going to say that's really interesting. You pick up on that. The word drugs has such a heavy stigma to it. You know, like people come to me and I tell them what I'm about, and they're like, "Nah, man, I don't do drugs." I'm like, "All right, do you smoke cigarettes, tobacco, nicotine? You know, do you drink alcohol? Yeah, ethanol. You know, they're also drugs as well." So people have this like, "Now drugs are something only that guy takes in a laneway," you know, or somebody who wants to escape the reality, or you know, somebody who's depressed takes, you know. But it's not. You can use substances to actually better yourself, you know, to heal trauma, to have mystical experiences and meet a source or God or whatever your higher power is. And it's amazing that you said that. You know, the thing about psychedelics are they can bring you to a place, they can bring you to a state of consciousness and show you the infinite possibility of what is capable of your mind. And then I'm a firm believer of using psychedelics and plant medicines to crack open your mind, as you said, you know, and bring you to this place and show you that, whoa, life isn't just how I've seen it. You know, there's different belief systems, different ways of being, different ways of feeling, and that then once you have those experiences, then you start to integrate those in your daily life through meditation, through yoga, through movement, through martial arts, Tai Chi. So, you know, you can't run after these peak experiences all the time. You have a peak experience with psilocybin or ayahuasca or MDMA or whatever it is, and then you try and bring that into your daily life. Like, for example, you know, I feel that festivals have done wonderful for the world. You know, people are trying substances at festivals. So if somebody maybe takes MDMA and they feel this like overwhelming sense of love for themselves, for people around them, it's like, yeah, you know, you can love yourself, you know, you can love your people around, so start doing it on a daily basis. You know, you don't need the substance to do it all the time. The substance can show you that it exists, the love for yourself and for other people. So then you have to transition into bringing that into your daily life. And for me, in the early days when I started to try psychedelics, I had this massive ability for self-inquiry and self-reflection that I never had before. I was always quite reflective and, you know, a little bit of an existential thinker. But when I took psychedelics, I could really just sit. You know, a lot of my early psychedelic experience were me just taking them and sitting by myself and just literally going through all of my life, all of my mind, all of the questions, beliefs, philosophies, ideologies that I had, and trying to see them from a different point of view. So when you have that with those experiences, then I feel that you have that then for the rest of your life, because you know, whoa, I can sit down and self-reflect on myself. So when you have a non-psychedelic experience, like you go to an interview, like now I'll go home and I'll self-reflect on it. You know, how did I do? Where was I beating myself up? Where was I, you know, being a bit harsh on myself for what I said? And having this, like, cultivating this, like, self-inquiry practice, which, you know, Advaita Vedanta is one of the deepest levels of work, I feel, is like really getting in and trying to analyze the self.
It's also cultivating that sense of wonder, because this morning I taught a walk-in meditation as part of my class, and how sometimes we think, right, I'm going to go out for a walk. I'm going to go to the park, go to the forest. And yes, you are in nature, you are walking through the park, but what are you thinking about? You're thinking about what you're going to be doing later, that email you sent, that argument that you might have with someone, what you're going to say if they say this. Instead of walking meditation, looking at a tree, looking at the leaf on the tree, the structure of the leaf, the colours, how we and the leaf are so similar. Trees need us, we need trees, symbiotic relationship, the exchange of oxygen, carbon dioxide. Are you thinking about that, or are you thinking about, as I said, like emails and stuff? But it's very difficult to keep wonder in your mind when you're worried about paying your bills, or you're worried about trying to keep growing, in inverted commas. And when you experience MDMA or something similar, you have that little moment where you're like a child again. And I think the further we get away from being like a child, the more miserable we get. Or say that in a positive way, the more childlike we can be, the more joy we can find in life. And that I try to, but when you say, it's another word that has a negative connotation, being childlike, sometimes we think childish or immature, like that is, for example, laughter is considered to be irresponsible. You hear someone laughing in school, that's the worst thing you could do is to laugh, or in church, and you get told off for it. And then you feel like sometimes if you laugh or if you cry, people often apologize. They cry, I'm sorry, I'm crying. I'm sorry, I laughed at that thing. So just on this, I met Jamie White the other day. I was saying, and one thing I noticed with Jamie is almost straight away, like he said something and we were laughing because we had a mutual friend, and we had a bit of a laugh here too. And you realise that when you and someone else laugh together, you have that moment. It's like you're acknowledging something, and this is a slightly different point, and you can pull it back if you like from what I'm going to talk about briefly. But that's why I really admire comedians. I think comedians are truth tellers. I think they are like the modern Socrates. I really do, because when you're watching something, and I mean, God, ask yourself, who's listening to this podcast, watching this podcast, ask yourself, how many times a day do you laugh out loud? Laugh out loud. That's LOL, by the way. How many times do you actually like hurt yourself, fall over laughing, keel over because you're laughing so much? If it's less than 3 times a day, question yourself. And I find myself saying, like, did I actually have a laugh today at all? Because when we laugh at something, we're almost like tapping into a truth that we've ignored.
Absolutely.
And the comedian says something we were thinking, but they were brave enough to say it. And that's why I actually think my philosophy is take what you do seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. I'm going to get off my soapbox now.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, there's two points I want to come to there, but I'll start with laughing. Like, laughter is a form of emotional release. So you have people who will nervously laugh in difficult situations, and laughter and, you know, smiling is also a form of defense. So you might, you know, start laughing at someone when you're, you know, trying to, you know, have a bit of a barrier up. But laughter is essential to being a human, and the more we laugh, the better. You know, it's like I said, it's a form of releasing nervous energy, pent up energy. It's a form of catharsis. So sometimes on the retreats, people, you know, have this array of emotional release, and one of the ways of releasing is through laughter. So they'll just laugh through the whole experience because it's so earth-shatteringly bizarre that you'll just laugh because you can't do anything else, you know, and they'll laugh for, you know, 30 minutes or an hour. And some people will even say that, like, whoa, that's the first time I've laughed in like 2 or 3 years like that, like literally keel over laughing where you can't breathe, you know. There's something so amazing about that feeling,
Nothing
you know.
like it.
Yeah, nothing like it. Yeah, and it was really interesting you were saying about walking in nature, and one of the people that have influenced my life the most is Thich Nhat Hanh. He's a Vietnamese monk. He has a retreat in France called Plum Village, and he's actually very old right now, and he's gone back to Vietnam to die, essentially. But he has this philosophy on interbeing, you know, being in a forest or wherever you are and realizing that you are everything and everything is existing because you are existing. And by, you know, cultivating presence in these scenarios, like being in the forest, can show you how everything is related and everything exists, not independent of each other. Like, everything needs to be there. Like, if you look at a leaf, can you see the clouds in it that the rain was once there? Can you see the sunshine that made the leaf? Can you see yourself in the leaf? Because, you know, at one point you would have been dust, and, you know, you would have been recycled. So one thing that I really love about psychedelics is it gives you like almost instantaneous presence. When you take them, you're sitting there, you're faced with yourself. You literally see your thoughts very clearly. This is me, here I am. And this can be quite a mystical experience for people who haven't done any form of sitting meditation when they first take a psychedelic, and they really see, whoa, this is my mind. All this stuff going in my mind. It could be, you know, whatever, work, negative thought patterns, you know, stuff you're holding on from childhood, anger. It's all there, kind of like flushing around. So in the psychedelic experience, which a lot of spiritual seekers look for, is the mystical experience. They want to meet Source, they want to meet God, they want to meet whoever their deity is, Jesus, Krishna, you know, the Buddha. And they want this like mystical experience. On, you know, some people also who do different psychedelics want to meet spirits, want to meet entities, you know, in the DMT sphere, like Joe Rogan says. You meet these kind of like machine elves and you know, different sort of forms of something that people have associated, like this is a form of some sort of person or thing, you know. So people want these mystical experiences of meeting themselves, their higher power, or God, or going back to source, or being shattered into the universe, having this ego dissolution where they have no sort of perception of self anymore. Like Dara is completely gone. Dara is just oneness now, is connected to everything, this interbeing that Thich Nhat Hanh says. So people really look for these mystical experiences, and the research recently has started to show that people who have these mystical experiences are getting the healing that they search for. So there's a correlation now between people having these like oneness experience and also having this sense of feeling healed or feeling a greater part of the world, and it gives you this sense of belonging to something bigger than yourself. A lot to chew on there.
When I first started doing yoga, completely honest, I was like, this is a load of bollocks. Like, people are like, you know, let your mind be still, and kind of, I could hear the words, and it was like, this is stuff you read on Instagram, you know, and it sounds so cliche. But one of the cool things I heard Alan Watts say once was, you are your own teacher. The answers are inside of you, but it's to allow yourself to be still and listen. And I think that what you said about merging your scientific background, you know, science is really important. Question everything, test it, see if it works, peer-reviewed studies, it's really important. But to understand how much we're inspired and how much crossover there is between East and West. And this is what I wanted to ask you. If you meet someone who's a scientist, and maybe they're not, they're purely strictly in that field, and they say, you know, this dancing around the field and crying, hugging each other, this is a load of new age nonsense. What would you say?
Yeah, well, that's actually been part of my journey, you know, because I really started to shift into where I am halfway through my PhD, you know. I was just really, really anxious, really depressed, really down on myself. Had a lot of things happen to me around a certain period of time where I had this sort of like dark night of the soul, you know. And I started to really change how I navigated life. And people really, what's the word? It made them uneasy when I was around them, I felt. Because, you know, I started to express myself more. I started to like dance how I wanted to dance. I started to do the things I wanted to do. I was almost like coming out of that community and going into another community who, you know, in the sort of spiritual sphere or yoga sphere or meditation or plant medicine sphere, people accept you and they get it, you know. And I think that is a really big problem in the Western world, is we're too in the rational, logical side of the brain. You know, there's almost like no room for magic, the mystical experience, esoteric subjects. There's no room. If it can't be quantitatively proved, or if I can't see it with my hands tangibly, then it doesn't exist. So you'll know yourself when you have a deep yoga experience, when you have a plant medicine experience, you see, you're not believing anymore, you're not having faith, you have a felt experience where you know, okay, this is true for me. And that is what I have really built my life on. You know, I'm open, I will go into something, and if it's true for me, it's true for me. And what's true for you may not be true for me, and may never be true for me based on our previous experiences. But I can't discount what you say is true for you, because I can never know. So kind of went off on a bit of a tangent there.
But when they say new age,
yeah,
like sometimes especially in the last few months, we haven't been able to travel abroad anywhere, and maybe it's encouraged people now to appreciate what's in their own country. Often we think, if I want to have a spiritual experience, I need to go to the middle of or somewhere distant, and that speaks a different language and people dress differently, because that's the mystical place and Ireland isn't.
Yeah.
So my point is,
that, and what I'm trying to ask you is, when people say this is new age, it's not, is it?
No, well, like the Eastern traditions have been going for like thousands of years, you know. I think there's been a lot of, and I really hate this about spirituality, and, you know, my 2 trips to India in the last 2 years, I really saw this, how spirituality is almost like packaged in a way for the Western mind, you know. It's like you're going to go to this place and everyone's going to whip out crystals and start talking you know, about what's your astrology, and you know, wearing like funny clothes, and, you know, it's all part of, I think, I see it as it's also a form of capitalism almost, you know. It's like people are trying to sell you crystals then, and people are trying to sell you different clothes, and people are trying to you know, sell you stuff. So it's really tricky to try and find what is actually authentic, you know. And when I went to India, that's what I was seeking. I was like, where's the authenticity? I want to find where, like, why is this place so spiritual, you know, where, like, what is the actual essence? And it's very similar with like Tantra, you know, like the whole Neo-Tantra movement has nothing to do with original Buddhist Tantra. You know, it's almost like fashioned for the Western mind, and it's more focused on certain aspects, you know. And I think people brandishing, you know, people like hippies or New Age, is potentially they don't understand fully, and it makes them feel uncomfortable. So if you actually maybe did your research and learned a bit about what is going on in those circles, maybe you might have a bit of a different opinion.
But doesn't Ireland have a rich history with...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, we have such a shamanic, druidic history that was unfortunately completely wiped from the country when the English came over, or St. Patrick and the, you know, the Catholic colonialism of Ireland. And in the last few years, and I've been part of it as well, is like this resurgence in sort of connection to Celtic paganism and Celtic shamanism, and using these tools and techniques to better yourself and better your community. And, you know, and it's funny you mentioned people going to these other places. It's similar with ayahuasca and San Pedro or peyote, which have mescaline in it, which MDMA is derived from. You know, people are flying to Peru, people are flying to Mexico to have these plant medicine experiences, where in fact, like in Ireland, magic mushrooms grow here in the ground. We have like one of the strongest magic mushrooms in the world. They can't be grown in a lab. They can only be sourced from the fields. And these mushrooms were definitely used in Irish rites and rites of passage maybe, and the Druids more than likely would have used them for, you know, connecting to the land and having these mystical experiences. And it's kind of like it is tied in Irish culture, you know. We have this like history of fairies and leprechauns, like little people, and it's kind of almost like psychedelic a bit, and, you know, fairies and leprechauns always live in mushrooms. There's a bit of evidence for it, you know, non-scientific evidence. But,
no, I've seen the pictures.
yeah. And then as well, like we have so many sacred sites in Ireland, and the sacred sites are just as old as the pyramids, if not even older. And unfortunately in the country, it's really terrible that our sacred sites aren't being maintained. You know, we have beautiful cairns down at Lough Crew, which are crumbling because
beautiful what, sorry?
Cairns. They would have been like they're like chambers, and people say they would have been a place to bury people or to leave people while they die, and you know, for like artifacts in there as well. And these sacred sites, they align with like the summer solstice and the equinox. Newgrange is the equinox, and or the winter solstice, sorry. Lough Crew is equinox, and, you know, these places would have been a place of coming together. If tribes would have come together, they would have celebrated, they would have lit ceremonial fires, would have like connected, shared stories, poems. You know, Ireland has a great creative tradition here. We have great poets, writers, singers, songwriters, musicians, you know, and this all plays into the creativity that we have as a nation, which I feel would have come through the land, you know, in whatever way, shape and form, connecting to magic mushrooms or other herbs, or being just immersed in nature. So we do have a really strong tradition here, and I think some of the other cultures, such as the Shipibo tribe or the Wixacaras in the Americas, or, you know, the Native Americans as well, a lot of people are going there and looking at their traditions and seeing what their rites of passage are, like sweat lodges or vision quests being sent out, or plant medicine, and then we're coming back here to Ireland and trying to incorporate those back into our culture, and use them to better ourselves and our communities. So we've almost like forgotten here in Ireland, unfortunately, because of, you know, history and what's happened to the country. And now I feel there's a remembering happening now. People are connecting to the land. More people are trying to live off grid. More people are trying to like get out of the cities, live in nature. More people are going to the sacred sites than ever. More people are gathering in community, like, you know, celebrating and forming, having ritual, having ceremony, and it's really, really beautiful to see. And on the retreats, we blend this in as well. We blend, the medical model, you know, with people, you know, taking the substances in a kind of as medical as we can facilitate, very similar to the clinical trials. And we also blend in this form of, Celtic shamanism, which almost like sets the container and gives people the ability to set strong intentions for the substance, and to be able to also, like, if you have this mystical experience, then to be able to like have some sort of context to put that in, you know. So this has been a really big thing that a lot of people love about the retreats, are that we also have like singing on the retreats, we have dancing, we have drum journeys, we have breath work, we have connection to nature, we have fire ceremony, we have a cacao ceremony, we, you know, I run a static dance on the retreats. You know, we have all of these other practices that are used in all different traditions. We have yoga as well, of course, and meditation, and, you know, we blend it all together, and that's what people really love. It's like they have these earth-shattering, life changing experience lying on the mat when they take psilocybin. It really opens your mind. And then we couple that with all of these beautiful practices that are just as powerful in their own right if you dive deep into them. So, you know, some people have never done yoga, and then you hear they've done their teacher training after a retreat, or they've never done meditation and now they've sat 2 Vipassana since, or, you know, some people have, you know, started to grow their own mushrooms and spread them to their friends, and, you know, sit for other people and this sort of thing. So it's sort of like a catalyst, you know. That's why I love to use this word. Like, the magic mushrooms are a catalyst for change. They're not a golden bullet or a silver bullet. They're not going to cure all your problems, but they can really open you up and provide this point where you can then bring in other practices on a daily basis to get you where you need to be.
And speaking of get you where you need to be, I do think that travel is great. Travel broadens the mind. More importantly, I think it's good to live in different cultures. Like, I lived in Korea for a couple of years, lived in Colombia, and it's really important, I think, to live in other cultures, other countries. But sometimes we think like the answer is on the other side of the world when it doesn't have to be. And Ireland has got a lot going for it. It's by the way, my parents are Irish, just want to say. I just got an English accent, but yeah, it's all good. But yeah, Dara, so if people want to know more about you, where do they go?
Where they go? Well, they can connect with me on Instagram. I'm Dara Stewart on Instagram, and if they want to drop me an email, it's dara@inwardbound.nl, or they can check out the website inwardbound.nl, and all our information about our next retreats are up there. If you're interested in coming on one of the men's circles, connect with me on Instagram, or drop me an email and I'll point you in the right direction. Our next retreats are in November. Hopefully coronavirus won't get in the way again.
I don't think so. Yeah, hopefully.
So we have a retreat in November, January, February and March of next year. So we're really excited to get back into the swing of things. And then the men's circles, there's been a great evolution with the men's circles. They've really taken off during the coronavirus, you know, because I've moved online and I think it's way more accessible for people, you know, like myself and my business partner Rob Coffey. We started up the men's circles nearly 3 years ago in Ireland, and we were always doing them in Dublin city centre, you know, once a month. And now I have men coming on every week because there's, you know, they can just sign on for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So the men's circles are on every week. I'm hoping to run workshops, and our first men's retreat is coming up in August as well. So that's going to be out in Sligo.
Nice.
So if anybody's interested in those, just drop me an email.
Brilliant.
And I just want to say, if you mention your podcast, we're going to give 10% off for any retreat that you'd like to come on.
There you go. So that's the Yoga Life podcast. Dara, thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you so much for enjoying the podcast. If you did, please share it with a friend. Maybe leave a review on iTunes or leave a like on YouTube, and maybe even subscribe. Really appreciate you and your time. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to reach out to me at Kevin Boy Yoga on Instagram or on my website. Until next week, have a good one.